Greetings. My name is Gallant Pelham. I was born September 7, 1838 in the Cane Creek community of Alexandria, Alabama. I was third of 8 children, born to my parents Martha and William Pelham on our family's 1,000-acre plantation. During my boyhood, I was rather adventurous and enjoyed exploring. So, one particular time, I rode one of our neighbors' milk cows until it ran dry. Well, thereafter, I received a lecture to only ride bulls in the future if I was feeling rather adventurous. In the year 1856, our local congressman, Sampson Willis Harris, secured for me an appointment at West Point Military Academy at the request of my uncle, A.J. Walker. I was then successfully enrolled in West Point Military Academy for its only 5-year course. During the academy years, I had some rather interesting experiences. One time, I was kicked in the knees by a horse, needing to receive medical attention. And another time, in December of 1860, I had 2 teeth pulled and 3 filed on the same day without any type of pain reliever. That was a difficult day. But in my studies, I came across this book titled Cavalry, Its History and Tactics, written by a British officer named Nolan. I find this information later on to become of great use. At the academy, I excelled in athletics, ranked highest in cavalry tactics, and was rather popular amongst my fellow cadets. See, during this time, there was rumors of war, and some states even wanted to secede the Union, which would cause a great dilemma on my hands. See, I was determined to receive my diploma in the year 1861 in that spring, but I had a decision to make: stay at West Point until the spring of '61 to receive my diploma, or to resign and come back home to Alabama and join the Confederacy. I regretted the circumstances which made it necessary, but I didn't see any remedy. Alabama seemed determined to leave the Union before the middle of January, and I thought it would be dishonorable of me to withhold my service when they will be needed. It seemed pretty hard to have toiled for 4.5 years for a diploma, then have to leave without it. In February of '61, and by this time, Alabama had seceded from the Union, I wrote to the President of the Confederate States of America, inquiring whether or not I should stay at West Point and receive my diploma in the spring of '61, or to resign. But I received no word, no response. Shortly after, I received word that I had been appointed First Lieutenant of the Confederate States Army without my consent or knowledge. See, I was determined to receive that diploma from West Point until Secretary of War Simon Cameron put his hand to the pen after the bombardment at Fort Sumter, April 12th, commencing war between the states. The following day, he directed that all West Point cadets were to reaffirm their oath of allegiance to the United States of America. But as for me and my good Texan friend Thomas Rouser, we refused and submitted our resignations on April 22nd, 1861, and together we started our long journey back home to Alabama. Immediately upon arrival back at my home in Alexandria, we began to drill the new recruits. These men were composed of the neighboring areas of Jacksonville and Alexandria, Company D, or more commonly referred to as the Alexandria Rifles. I had the personal honor of training and preparing these men for war. We then parted, and we made our way to the Confederacy's new capital in Montgomery, Alabama, to offer our service. I personally had desired a commission with the cavalry, but the Confederacy needed artillery officers to oversee arms and munitions in Lynchburg, Virginia, where I was stationed for quite some time. After that, I was asked by General Joseph E. Johnson to come to Harper's Ferry to help train the new recruits into artillerymen. I and the Arbutus Battery in July of 1861 then accompanied General Joseph E. Johnson and General Thomas Stonewall Jackson to Manassas, Virginia, the first major battle of the war between the states. I and my battery played a key role in the defeat of the Union forces at this battle. In the fall of '61, I was promoted to captain, so I can mobilize a mobile artillery or organize a mobile artillery unit underneath the direct command of Brigadier General Jed Stuart. And by the summer of 1862, I was promoted to Major of the Mobile Artillery Unit. Thanks to my abilities on the field and my tactics, my most memorable engagement with the Union was at Fredericksburg in December of 1862. My men and I, mainly with one cannon, were stationed well in advance of the main Confederate line, enabling us to stop the entire Union Army's advancement for nearly 2.5 hours. Thus, it gave the Confederate line a stronghold where they were able to repel several series of vicious attacks from the Union. My tactics were even noted by some of the highest ranks and generals, one being which General Lee himself referred to me as the Gallant Pelham. My men and I, we would rapidly fire to one side of the enemy's flank, reload and relocate, and commence firing and repeat this process, not giving away our position, for we were always in a different location. Thus, it gave the enemy great confusion where the cannon was coming from, or what they thought cannons, but mainly it was one cannon. But let me tell you about warfare in a letter that I wrote to a relative of mine after the first Battle of Bull Run. I have seen what romancers call glorious war. I have seen it in all its phases. I have heard the booming of cannon and the more deadly rattle of musketry at a distance. I have seen it all nearby and have been under its destructive showers. I have seen men and horses fall thick and fast around me. I have seen our own men bloody and frightened and flying before the enemy. I have seen our own men bravely charge the enemy's lines and heard the shout of triumph as they carried their position. Heard agonizing shrieks, the wounded and dying. I passed over the battlefield and have seen the mangled forms of men and horses in frightful abundance. Men without heads, men without arms, and others without legs. All this I have witnessed in war, until my heart sickens. And war is not glorious as novelists would have us believe. It is only when we are in the heat and the flush of the battle that it becomes fascinating and interesting. It is only then that we enjoy it. That was my letter. March 17th, 1863, at Kelly's Ford, Virginia, was my last engagement with the enemy. Our cavalry forces, Confederate cavalry forces, were stationed nearby the Rappahannock River. I was in Culpeper, Virginia, when I received word of a surprise Union attack on our cavalry. So I borrowed a horse in Culpeper, rode out immediately after crossing the Rappahannock River by a bridge. A Union artillery shell exploded, embedding its fragments into the back of my head. I tumbled from my horse unconscious, being thought for dead. I was then transported back to Culpeper, where the doctors vigorously worked on me. Before it was too late, I had passed on at the age of 24. Sorrow swelled in the Confederacy. General Jed Stuart said of my death there is an irreparable loss to the Confederacy, with General Lee referring to me again as the Gallant Pelham. My mortal remains being transported by train were then in Richmond for quite some time, and from Richmond it was on to Anniston, Alabama at the Blue Mountain Railroad. And from that Blue Mountain Railroad I was transported by 4 white horses in a carriage back to my home, arriving there March 28th, 1863. The funeral was set for March 31st. The eulogy was given at the old First Baptist Church in Jacksonville, where the Jacksonville Republican newspaper said at that time that it was rather a bright, sunny spring day, and it was the largest body of people ever gathered or seen in Jacksonville. In attendance at my grave were family, friends, relatives, clergy, CSA officers, teachers and students from both the male and female academies, the Calhoun County Grand Jury, and citizens. At my grave, when they lowered my remains into that final resting place, the school children filled my grave with white lilac blossoms. The men of the Confederacy, myself included, We fought and died for what we believed in the defense of our rights and our homes. Upon my grave, my monument, you will see the words say, "How shall we rank thee upon glory's page, and more than soldier?" Thank you.